Welcome to this Astro Priestesses Roundtable looking at the Pisces Solar Month. Wow. And I know we say that a lot, but I guess it's good. So somebody told me that wow means way out wonderful. So I think wow is a great way to look at it. So if we keep into that wonder of what's going on, how we're looking at the wonder of these cycles. So we are recording this prior to the actual beginning of the Pisces solar month. And there'll be a couple of things that we may back up and cover to as we lead up into a couple of the things that are happening. But the sun goes into Pisces on February 18th and begins the Pisces solar month. And then on February 19th, we have the North Node and Chiron exactly conjunct. And this is amazing. And literally, they've been pretty close. They've been within 5 degrees since the beginning of the year, and they'll be within 5 degrees until May, early May. And so we're in the energy of it, but the exact center point of it will be February 19th. And so I got inspired to go back and look at the times that's happened in the past and found that one of the ones that was fairly close to this time, 1633. 1633, they came together on February 20th, and it was at around 19 degrees Aries. And this one is happening at almost 17 degrees Aries. So that was within a couple of degrees of each other. And that's a long time ago. Like, a few centuries ago. And so then I thought, well, I wonder what was happening at that time. So I went and looked, and it was when Galileo was being, he was put on trial by the Catholic Church for being aware of the fact that the Earth is going around the sun, not the sun going around the Earth. And so he was put on trial. He stuck to his perspective. He had picked up that perspective from Nicholas Copernicus, and then he was able to prove it when he got a telescope. But the church didn't like it, so they basically found him guilty and sentenced him to prison. So he recanted. And he said, okay, I was wrong, no, that's not the way it really happened. And so he wound up not having to go to prison. But that was a big event that was happening in 1633. And I think of the Aries mysteries, so Chiron in Aries and North Node in Aries, it's all about how are we restoring cosmic justice. And what's interesting is all these years later, we know for sure now that the Earth is going around the sun and not the other way around. So perhaps it's like there's a part of me that once would like to be able to go back and say, so how do you feel about what you did way back then? But how are we in this time also looking towards creating a destiny, North Node, creating a destiny that is featuring justice for all, the greater good, the common good, not just for a few, but for everyone. What is that? So what are we seeding on this day of February 19th and in this window from January to March of it being within 5 degrees, and then it's really been within 10 degrees for quite a while past that. So what is that? What are we tuning into around creating? Aries loves to be, it's all about how do we restore justice if justice isn't there, and how do we protect justice if it is there? So those are some thoughts I'm having, and I'm going to pass this along.
I love that connection so much because I was thinking about Galileo, like how much you need to trust your own knowing to really go for it when the whole society, when everyone else is saying you're wrong. And in this case, the wound was stronger, right? Like, I don't want to be killed, so I'm going to say I'm wrong. And I think this conjunction is really telling us to trust our guts and to really go for wherever we feel is right, even if our surroundings sometimes are saying, "What? You're crazy." Yeah, I'm crazy, but I know I'm right. And I think with all the Aquarius energy as well, that's one of the wounds, that sometimes you are seeing things ahead of your time, and other people are not ready to really see what you're seeing. And for the Aries mysteries to really start. And that is something that for me in my life has been a recurrent story with my triple Aries energy of why people are not doing that. Like why we are not going this way. And always the message is you are the one who starts, and then people will follow if they are called to follow. Like they don't have to, maybe they have another path to take. But at the moment, everyone is experiencing this North Node. So I think we are all called to be leaders of like opening new pathways and trust our instincts. And if people around are saying, no, no, you are like, no, I keep going this way because I feel it in every bone of my body. And maybe sometimes the vision will come with time. And we will just need to keep trusting this opening new pathways of possibility. Like sometimes we don't see on the earth, and especially with so much Aquarius at the moment at the same time, like the results are not that easy to see, because what we are bringing down is huge. Like it's a whole global humanity revolution. So it's like we are seeing things, but if we are seeing any injustice, as Kajelin was saying, like don't wait for someone else to do something. And it's like, what is yours to do something? Because Aries needs to act as well. It's not about thinking about doing something. It's truly about just do it. So, and that will open a little bit of the wound. So it doesn't mean that it's easy, but just do it.
I love the just do it. I wonder if that's connected at all to the cycles we'll talk about where that came out in branding and marketing, which would be very interesting, tuning into Venus and Mars. But I love that so much. I'm sure that everybody has been feeling this build up of, okay, I know that there's this deep instinctual healing happening and the wounding. And I definitely feel like the building up of the aspect tends to be the more intense part than afterwards. It kind of gets released after it's perfected or it becomes more integrated. So just really having a scan around it, like, okay, where have I felt this inner tension around? I know I want to do something, but I have all of this idea of how I think I can't, or I feel like I need to know more about what I'm going to do after the first step. It's like we want to have the next 5 steps rather than just the next 1 step. And the thing with Aries is it has to be spontaneous, it has to be embodied, it has to be really responsive to what's happening in the here and now. It's even with the North Node having this element of the future, and we're talking about Pluto in Aquarius also has this element of the future. It's like it's happening right now. So you can't know too much about what's going to happen next in order to take that right action. Something else that I think you both spoke into so beautifully is just that whole idea of how our worldviews are going to be shattered. And they already are. They're completely getting shattered. And it's so true that every time we have these big sort of transits, it often is associated with Pluto and Aquarius. If we think of, the past couple, like 2.5 centuries ago with the American and French revolutions and other things having to do with like Uranus, Pluto. There's that sort of radical change, sudden disruption, but it's always around something that we think we know that it's completely different, round earth from flat earth, like it's a very different worldview that changes absolutely everything about what you would do. So if you just even think about it logically, like for the person who's like, I'm really logical and I want to know what I'm doing from a logical space, you can use that. It's like you can still have your mind be part of this process, so you're not just like bypassing that. Or repressing it or rejecting it. It's like just thinking about it logically. There's so much that we actually don't know that we can't know. right now, but we still have to take the action. And so I think even more important than what the specific action is that we're taking, I think we're learning bravery and self-trust. Like, it's not about the action being right. It's just about, like, who do we become when we're trusting ourselves to take this kind of action?
Wow. I'm feeling so inspired by listening to everyone. And Mar, I just love that you said opening new pathways of possibility. Like I just really felt that in my body as you were sharing that. And Nura, just kind of going off of what you were sharing with Pluto and Aquarius and revolution, if you're watching what's happening in the world as Pluto's gone into Aquarius, Pluto transited back to 0 Aquarius, here in January, and we are having all sorts of uprisings all around around the world, especially in Europe, like with the farmers kind of uprising and saying, we're not going to we're not going to go with this oppressive system. And as Pluto goes into Aquarius, we're probably over this year going to have very rapid change and this energy of revolution and things. And it can also, especially as Mars is in Aquarius over Pisces season, over Pisces season. And I don't think Mars squares Uranus in Pisces season, but I think it's actually Aries season when Mars squares Uranus. I could be wrong, but there's a really fast moving, and it can bring a chaotic energy of change. And while there's so much kind of instability happening around the world, it's now more than ever that we want to hold the frequency and put our attention and intention on what we're wanting to create, because the old world is dismantling. And many of us, it's not a linear process. We can already be holding the frequency of the new paradigm that we're creating. You might say the new earth. There's this higher vibrational reality that, like, Kaylin says, hopefully we're creating something that's going to restore cosmic justice, Aquarius, that serves all, that serves the people, not just the few at the top. And while there's a lot going on in the world, what we do have control over is, our own inner world. And Aquarius is the sign of frequency. And I'm kind of going all over the place because we have this Venus-Mars conjunction that's happening right after the Chiron North Node conjunction. That's an invitation to really connect with creation, right? Venus-Mars coming together. This is the energy of creation, of birthing, of manifestation. We have this energy to really create in a new way, in an innovative way, really exploring what happens when we really put our intention and attention into it. And just, I find it so interesting that the Chiron North Node conjunction is happening right at about the same time as the Venus-Mars conjunction, and Mars being kind of the guardian of the Aries mysteries, who's dancing with Venus and Aquarius, teaching us this new way of being and this new way of creating. And with, Chiron and the North Node, Chiron touches on, our deepest wounding. And so as Chiron and the North Node are kind of coming together closer and closer to this exact conjunction, right, as we go into Pisces season, we probably have a lot of things coming up. You may have things coming up from old wounds, old triggers. It can bring up a lot emotionally, and just knowing that can be really helpful, because with the Chiron, it's like we feel it to heal it, and really opening up our heart. And can we create space for whatever we're feeling, whatever hurt or grief or anger, right? This is in Aries, whatever's coming up, can we hold it? And self-compassion and self-acceptance and self-love. And, if you look at Chiron's myth, some of the, really the Chiron wound goes back to the wound of abandonment, of separation. And Chiron represents it's through the wounding, it's the barriers, the guarding, the armoring that we place around our heart. And the Chiron journey is about, pulling off or dissolving, or it's about healing our heart, to open up, to shed off that armoring, to open our hearts wide open, to feel our humanity and to feel our divinity, and that they're one and the same. And with Chiron and Aries, it's the armoring we place around our hearts that makes us fearful to truly live alive, like to just do it, right? To just go for it. To Aries is that cardinal spark of life. It is that spark that inspires us to live fully alive. Aries is that I am that I am. I'm just being. I'm not thinking too much about it. I'm not self-monitoring or inhibiting myself. I'm just being. I'm being just as I am. I'm alive, right? It's I am that I am. So there's something to really heal. Where have we been fearful to live and to just go for what our heart really, really desires here?
Wow, that's so good. Love what everybody had to say. So good. Okay, so since you mentioned it, Jamie, the Venus-Mars conjunction, just backing up a little bit prior to that, and this really kind of ties in with what's going on with Chiron, the shamanic healer, is we've got Mars going into Aquarius on February 12th, right before the sun goes into Pisces, and then conjunct Pluto on February 13th. So that energy, also shamanic energy of taking that deeper dive, and what's the shadow, what's in the way of us experiencing the more expansive points of view, the more cosmic perspective, that unity consciousness, what's in the way of that? And then Venus goes into Aquarius on February 16th, and then the next day is with Pluto. So this is happening prior to their meeting. They meet each other on February 22nd, and they're still very close to Pluto. So Pluto's still very much a part of the story here of what is it that needs to be to shed those pieces, or to shine light on the shadow, I guess is probably a better way to say that, to shine light on the shadow that's in the way of the masculine and feminine coming together in sacred union in a new way that has never been done before, in a more expansive cosmic kind of way. Pretty exciting. So I'm going to pass this on in just a minute, but before I do, I'm going to say that the full moon on February 24th is with the star. It's a Pisces full moon, I mean a Virgo full moon, and that is with a star called Thuban. And so I can't resist bringing in the dragon, because Thuban is in the constellation of Draco the dragon, and this full moon is there, and we just enter the year of the dragon, the lunar year of the dragon, on February 9th with the new moon. And of course I have my dragon pendant, goes with me everywhere now because I'm so into the dragon energy. So just wanted to say that then the full moon, so we have the new moon starting the year of the dragon, then we have the full moon that is with the stars of the dragon. So good. Anyway, I'm going to pass it along now.
I thought it was really interesting that on February 22nd, between the 21st and the 22nd, the moon will be in Leo. So first trine that north node Chiron, and then opposing the Venus-Mars conjunction as well. So kind of all of that happening at the same time. It does feel like there will be a lot of big feelings, big energies, and big ahas and releases, I think, leading up to this full moon. And then hopefully when we're coming to the full moon in Virgo, it's like that stretch between Virgo and Pisces, between mind and perfection, excellence, details, maybe how do we want to improve something, all of these Virgoan temple keeper skill sets, but really with that light of Pisces shining on, okay, how do we get to look at this all with more compassion? So now it's like just additive, right? Like we're kind of just adding more things to the cauldron. It's like, okay, we're doing some healing work. We are starting some new relationship dynamics around what we're creating out in the world. We get to tune into how to do all of this with greater compassion and attention to details. Like, how do we get to hold all of it? It feels like there will be a lot of big feelings. So even just accounting for that, which Virgo loves accounting, it's like, that's how we can be prepared, give yourself the space and support. And this could probably be one of those times where you are reaching out relationally and either asking for support or connecting with people in a new way. Like it's kind of a put yourself out there a little bit kind of time, because especially if that is in any way part of your Aries wound around self-trust, or, you know, feeling like you're not accepting yourself, or other people might not accept you, if that's in any way part of your story, you know, putting yourself out there in a new way and just taking that risk and being brave, like even just the action of doing that is so freeing and so liberating. And then kind of, you know, having the emotional experience of like, wow, I'm a little bit uncomfortable, but I'm okay. Like I'm safe doing this. And you know, you just never know who you're also going to attract, who's also kind of in that energy. So it does feel like kind of this happy surprising kind of time too. Like we don't know everything that's going to happen, but if we're going into every situation thinking like, I already know the outcome of what this is going to be, we're really closing ourselves off to the possibility of what relationships can be like. And I think that's something that is getting stretched a little bit here during and leading up to this full moon.
I I was so inspired. This is an example, right? Like all our conversations is not only like we have the magic of the cosmos, and then how we are also inspiring each other with the words, and then the messages will be, they're different than if I do it by myself. And we always say that, but it's like, it's truly different because, and that is the magic that I see in this story. Like we have that Venus with Pluto and Mars with Pluto, and then it's like showing us everything at the beginning of February before Pisces season, but it is showing us everything that needs to die in a very personal level, because when we're talking about Venus and Mars, we're not talking just about society. That, yes, of course, but it's like my relationship with society from a very personal point of view, like my relationships, my the ways I take action into the world, my work. So many people are like really ready to change what they do for a living in order to be more in alignment, because, and this is the farmers, right? Like it's in my city, for instance, they are like, my city is uprising, and it's normal. It's like they don't make a normal living, like they cannot support the process of the system that is so I don't know, like it's really blocking the dragon. And I think the dragon inside of the collective is ready to fly. And in a personal level, each one of us is seeing what's the story, what is the part in our lives that we just need to open our wings, and sometimes some things will be dead in the process, like we will need to destroy a few things that they are not serving us anymore. And I think with the full moon and the conjunction of Mars and Venus before is showing us now what, like what do you do after the dragon is with the fire? And because in this full moon we have Virgo, and the full moon is also with Saturn, so it's like after have, like we see all these possibilities and we see everything that doesn't serve us anymore, and now what do we do with this? And that Saturn in Pisces, that is so interesting because it's like it's forgotten sometimes, but it's truly there. And in this full moon is saying to us, now, what is it? What's the dream that we are building, and how can we weave from our really personal environment? And I feel, and the square that Jamie was talking before, Mars and Uranus, is during this season in March 9th, and it keeps bringing that revolution. So it's like, what do we need to really upright? Like it's done, it's totally done. So it's like, don't try to keep up with something that is not working. And in so many ways, like I'm so proud of people like really saying enough is enough. We need to do things in a different way.
Oh, I love this. And, just going off of that, I feel that is some of the medicine of that Venus Mars conjunction in Aquarius, is how to birth things in a new way. And as the old world is, dying off and falling away, that we can already be creating the new structures within and around us, and a new way of living, a new way of creating, a new way of being, a new reality. Aquarius is a sign of multidimensionality. It is about opening up to the possibilities beyond what we can sense here in our physical reality, and opening up to the star wisdom and the multidimensional realms. And it really can expand us beyond our present reality, beyond our wildest imagination. And Aquarius, this is about humanity. This is about the collective. So there's an opportunity to really birth something for each of us, to birth something to, offer to the collective, whether it's in our little community where we live physically, our online community, birthing to the world, and really just following our North Node, our North Star, where our destiny, our path. Just doing that is how we just is how we offer something as well. And so I just see this really powerful possibility, this new way of collaborating, this new way of coexisting that's coming with this Venus Mars conjunction. And just an invitation to reflect on as we're moving into this is, what is a wildly new way of being? And Venus is being, Mars is acting, right? Venus, our inward directed energy, Mars, our outward directed energy. So what's this like wildly new way we can be in our lives? We can act in our lives. It can birth something, creating something new within our lives, because Aquarius can bring very rapid kind of change here. And then, the Pisces, the sun, that central burning energy is in Pisces, right? Pisces connects us to the that cosmic dream. So when we're in Pisces season, it's a beautiful time to really tap into that higher vision, that higher dream, to tap into possibility. Of Aquarius and Pisces and Aries, there's a lot of possibility, a lot of potential to have very rapid shift and change in our lives. All the planets are direct. And I also feel that it's important that, while it can be really scary what's happening in the world, it's like stay anchored to our North Star, because we can be birthing something to the world, and the change really starts within each of us. Doing that internal work, the change within really does have a collective ripple. And there's a lot going on with Hygeia in Pisces over this Pisces season. Hygeia moved into Pisces in January of this year, and I think we'll be there through the end of March. And to me, Hygeia and Pisces brings this energy of dream healing. It's like the priestesses at the Asclepian dream temple. So there's a lot of potential here for like dream healing, dreaming things forward. The dream realm and the waking reality are not these two separate, dichotomous places. They're actually very merged, and we can dream things forward. We can dream things into reality. It's the healing that comes from really having that, really being open to the flow of spirit. It's the healing that comes from things that we can't even figure out with our mind. It's like opening up to that divine flow and this beautiful healing. It's also Hygeia and Pisces. It's like the oracle as well. And so there's just, there's a lot of healing potential here, this Pisces season.
Oh, that's so good. Beautiful. Thank you. And I'm appreciating that. Yes, Hygeia is about healing. Pisces is also about healing and the dreaming. And it reminds me of the book, The World is As You Dream It. It was written by John Perkins, and he was taught by indigenous elders down in South America to say that the people needed to have a new dream. We needed to be dreaming a new dream for the earth, otherwise we're going to wreck it. So, so here's our opportunity. And even if it's just a few of us, It doesn't have to be all of us. It can just be a few of us dreaming that new dream. It will change everything. And so a couple of things is that as we go towards the end of this month, and February of 2024 has an extra day. It's a leap year. And this only happens every 4 years. And so what do we do with that extra day? And right before that, the sun is conjunct Saturn the day before. And then Mercury is also with Saturn and the sun is with Mercury. All that Piscean energy also aligned with the stars of the dragon. And I love that you were saying North Star, Jamie, because the dragon, Draco the dragon, is in the area of the sky near the Polaris, the North Star, our current North Star, that will be our North Star for a long time. But anyway, and so that dragon energy and what you were saying, Mara, about the dragons opening its wings and flying and really coming more alive. And I've been seeing dragon energy everywhere. It is so true that awareness, that consciousness, whatever got lost for us all those many eons ago, is now coming back into our greater awareness. So tuning into this Piscean energy and dreaming a new dream for the earth. And we will have the Pisces new moon on March 10th. It is the closest new moon to the earth of all of 2024, meaning that it has a greater impact on the actual energy or tectonic plates of the earth, the tides. There's often more chances of earthquakes and massive weather patterns and things we're already experiencing. Of course, we're coming up at the time of this recording, we're coming up on the February 9th new moon, which is also a perigee close to the earth new moon, not as close as the one in March. But and we can see that is already being activated in many places, what's happening in California with all the flooding and all that. So I'm just excited that we have this opportunity to share some of these insights and ideas, and I'm looking forward to see what everyone else has to say about the rest of the solar month.
I really love the bringing the focus to the dream. And I also think of the fantasy and piercing that veil around what we think we can know. And that seems like a really big theme this month, and tuning into our different ways of knowing. The dragon in the Chinese astrology is the only mythical being that is part of the wheel. And I feel like dragons, similar to unicorns, similar to fairies, it's like if you have a magnetism, you're drawn to these beings, as I think all of us here are, then there's so much of that being drawn to these other ways of knowing, these other realms, these other dimensions, and it opens something up. It opens up possibility. So that feels really important. But then I think with this Saturn piece, because I think a few of you brought all of this in. It's like where we have the Mercury Sun conjunction, it's like the midpoint of Mercury's cycle, but it's also conjunct Saturn. And how interesting that if we tune into the beginning of when that cycle was, it was at 0 degrees Capricorn at the winter solstice, and we're still in that season. So we're still working with some sort of thought form, some sort of idea that had this kind of practical but semi-mystical quality that was seated around the Capricorn solstice, that now it's like, okay, it's kind of like the full moon moment of Mercury's cycle, where you get to see, okay, this is what the fruition is of this. So with Saturn, it's like, how do we get to actually make it real somehow? I always think of Saturn as bringing whatever it is into form. And it's these dreams, this mystical quality. Both Capricorn and Pisces have a very mystical lineage and have so many interesting stories associated with the unknown and the waters, but also it's always bridging heaven and earth. There's always some sort of bridging between Capricorn and Pisces. So Mercury, I think, as this planet, this guide that can kind of go every which way, that can go everywhere, and help us to make sense of our spiral evolutionary journey, it seems to say like right now is a really important time to, I think big, but see how that thinking big, that thinking out of the box can actually root you even deeper. Like it doesn't feel like a thinking big to get out And in a world that is just pure fantasy, it's like, how do we get to make that fantasy more real? Where are the ways that you could actually allow yourself, give yourself permission to go into the realms of possibility? And I think dissolve, which is one element of maybe what Saturn and Pisces is doing, it's dissolving the rules, the arbitrary rules that we think, oh, like this is the limit, this is the box. It's like, well, maybe it isn't. Maybe that's part of what we get to completely release. And I love that you brought in the leap year, Kaylin. It feels very much like a leap of faith kind of year, isn't it? And we get to take this leap of faith, I think, starting with our mindset and our heart set and really coming into our body. There's so much. I mean, we're still working with Jupiter in Taurus, who is approaching Uranus. There's so much around our embodied wisdom. And how do we take those leaps of faith in our relationships to create what is being called for? How do we take the leaps of faith in our healing? These are always really special years. I was born in a leap year. I think you too, Jamie, right? And Kaylin, were you also more? Yeah. So leap years, like I actually, have a brother-in-law who was born on the leap day of a leap year. So and he has had a very mystical, magical life. And so tuning into like that, taking that leap of faith, going outside of what you think you're allowed to experience, and realizing how much more authority you do have over your experience and more openness. I do think that'll be a really potent way to use all of this energy, especially with this new moon. We have March 8th as well, Mercury conjunct Neptune in Pisces. And then the sun will be joining Neptune in Pisces March 17th, right before Mercury enters the pre-retrograde shadow zone. So there's a lot of this almost dissolving the ways that we've limited our ways of knowing and reconnecting with the magic. And then, Aries season, I think, with all of the eclipses are really going to help us take some action on that. But it's like we get to be in the emotion of it first. It's said that we will be most successful and most fulfilled in our lives when all parts of ourselves are in alignment before we take any action. So this feels very much like the month where we get to do that. Like we get to play, we get to explore, we get to dream, but we get to ultimately come into that emotional alignment so that we're ready when it comes time to take, like, these are the bold, concrete actions.
Yeah, I love that so much. And the dreaming is like, I didn't realize that we have such a ending of the Pisces season that really call us to dream. And when Kalin was sharing about the dragons and the dreaming, there is this practice that we can do of like intentional dreaming before going to bed. And something that it came to me when Kailin was sharing is like, dream with dragons. Like, what are the dragons really wanted to share with us during the dreams? If we are afraid or we feel that whatever is dying off within our lives is really intense, asking for their protection and their strength. And it's just like we write it before going to bed. And then when we wake up, we just try to recall the dream. And if we don't remember, we can just write how we feel. And that feeling, even if we don't remember the dreams, is part of the messages of the dragon, and doing shamanic journeys to the dragons and to anything, right? But this year the dragons are really calling us to be brave in our lives and in wherever we are called to be in the communities that we are helping to be born, and to really nurture that. And in that dreaming phase is also very important all the time. It's like we take a step and then we dream again. And it's not like, sometimes I think with any project, people and people is like everyone, right? Me included. It's like we have the visioning and then we just want, as Nura was saying, we want all the steps. And normally it doesn't really work like that. We have the big vision, we have one step and we keep dreaming, and then sometimes it seems that we are not going anywhere. And especially with Pisces, we don't know. With Neptune there, with the sun, and Venus also enters Pisces. So it's like at the end of Pisces season, we don't know where we are, we don't know who we are, but we know more than any, like it's bigger than we thought it was. So I think that dreaming the possibilities and the receiving messages. So I think during this time it's great to do shamanic journeys, dream work, intentional meditations, visualization, anything that works for the person, but is really the way to receive the messages. And sometimes they're very abstract, and what we want is a clear message of do this, but normally it doesn't work that way. So it's that acceptance and understanding that sometimes we receive messages and we understand how they all piece together years after. And I think that's also part of the mystery of Saturn in Pisces. Wherever we are receiving now, we will see the picture along the way. So just be patient with the dreaming that we are dreaming.
I love that. I love the practice of like setting that dream intention, the dream incubation. And like, I love what you just spoke to, that sometimes we want that very clear message, like just do this, but um, that's often not the Pisces energy. It is really it's a little more nebulous. And I love to play the intuition game, kind of going off of what you were sharing, Maher. It's just like when you have an intuition, just playing with it and following it. Of course, we need to bring in the discernment and like filter things through a lens of discernment. But sometimes it's like, wow, I'm really feeling called to go like to this coffee shop, and it's like, if you can, it's like, go there. Maybe there's someone for you to meet, a conversation to have, a connection to make, maybe not. Sometimes like we don't even know where we get called something intuitively, and something, it's actually setting the trajectory for something to happen, and we might think nothing's happening in the moment, but we don't know what the trajectory is setting. And it reminds me of I love dreaming, and maybe 10 years ago or so, I got like really into working with dreams in a very intentional way. And I remember one time I had this dream of I was at this coffee shop and I ordered an orange latte, and it was actually really good in the dream. And I woke up and I was like, wow, an orange latte, like I've never even heard of that, I never thought about that. And I like wrote down in my dream journal, I was like, find the coffee shop with the orange latte. And at that time, I was teaching a lot of like mindfulness and yoga and like driving all over the place where I lived before doing that. And I stopped by this coffee shop that night after teaching. And I'm not kidding. They had like one of their specials was an orange latte. And it was like late at night. I was like, really? No, I don't even need caffeine in the first place. But I was like, definitely not at like, 7, 8 at night. But I'm like, I'm going to get it because of the dream. And it was like delicious. And I remember the whole time I was sitting in the coffee shop, like I thought something, when I was like expecting something huge to happen. Like, I don't know, like somebody would like, maybe like meet the person I was going to marry, or somebody's like, I'm going to give you $1,000. Like, I don't know. I just thought something like big would happen, or a connection, like an important connection. I'd like look at probably every person that walked by, like expectantly. They're probably like, why is she like looking at everybody like that? Like nothing happened, it like came and went, and it was like, but we don't know. Sometimes there is a little trajectory that's like being seeded that's beyond our awareness. And so it can be fun to also like kind of play the intuition game, play with like, even just when you wake up, maybe drawing an oracle card to kind of maybe get a message for the day or the energy of the day. And when I get on those, when I start doing that, like drawing oracle cards in the morning, I go through phases in and out of that. And when I do it, it's like usually something comes up that day that like, wow, brings it right back to the message. So those can be ways we can really like refine our intuition during Pisces season. That can be really fun to do. And just a few dates that I just wanted, as I was closing here, to share that really were jumping out at me is just a few things of Hygeia that you might be interested in. Mercury, right? Our mind, our mental energy conjuncts Hygeia at 21 Pisces on March 5th. So some really powerful like healing of our mind. And then just looking through my dates here, on that March 10th, we have that Pisces new moon at 20 Pisces. So that new moon is also conjunct Hygeia, who's at 23 Pisces at that time, and Neptune at 27 Pisces. So there's this really beautiful to plant some type of the seed for some type of new healing dream with that Pisces new moon. And then Sun conjuncts Hygeia March 15th at 25 Pisces. So really shining the light on healing. And then March 17th, the Sun's conjunct Neptune, which really that's a really beautiful time to shine light, to dissolve through to shine light, to really dissolve through previous like illusions, previous ways where we've deceived ourselves, where we've been where we've kind of fallen into illusion, and to really shine past that and to open up the energy to really create in a new way that's not so like kind of clouded by illusion. And with Pisces season, I always like when the sun's in Pisces, I always like to say, you know, where have we been deceiving ourselves, and to be able to like open up to these new possibilities when we're no longer kind of like deceiving ourselves.
Beautiful. Oh my gosh. Okay, so loving all of the the practices that have been shared here, done some of them myself, and I highly recommend them. So I hope everyone will feel inspired by that. Also, that coming back to this roundtable perspective that Mar was sharing earlier about how we all have a different piece of, it's like, you know, we sit around the table, and this reminds me of my mentor in the priestess process back in 1995. And she talked about when you're sitting around the table, it's like what I'm seeing is going to be different than when somebody's sitting opposite me or sitting, you know, in a different direction than me. So this is why we love doing this, because it helps to expand our own awareness, but we hopefully are expanding yours as well. And that this will be an amazing Pisces month for everybody. So if anybody has any last words, let me know. But otherwise, I think we are complete for today.
I would just love to know, for all of the people listening, since we brought up dream work and oracle cards, what are your favorite practices around those things, and what are your favorite oracle cards? Because that would just be a really fun way for us to get to know a little bit more about you.
Yeah, that would be really fun. Okay, cool. Yeah, I love that. Anything else? Okay. Happy Pisces Solar Month, everyone. We'll see you on the other side.